ready for the truth? Bring it on!
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Well, good evening, good afternoon. Happy Friday to you. You made it even during the slim down of government. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Hey, proudly on. Say it with me now. Hey, if our talk. And we go right to Woodward. Are you talking about the Woodward? Yes, the real Woodward. Well, that would be none other than Chris Woodward, business and environment reporter for American Family News, onenewsnow.com. He was just anchoring, and he's in studio, and we do something on Fridays. We play Beat the Press. Chris, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. I will say this segment was not affected by the partial government shutdown.
That's true. In fact, it was enhanced by it. And we go now to Harry Reid, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and Dana Bash of CNN. And Dana Bash has the audacity to ask Senator Harry Reid about a bill that's going to be coming out of the House that is going to fund research for the National Institute of Health for kids with cancer. And she asked about this, and then I want to get your thoughts on the exchange as you are reporter extraordinaire.
Okay.
Roll it.
What right do they have to pick and choose what part of government is going to be funded? It's obvious what's going on here. You talk about reckless and irresponsible. Wow. What this is all about is Obamacare. They are obsessed. I don't know what other word I can use. They are obsessed with this Obamacare thing. It's working now, and it'll continue to work, and people will love it even more than they do now by far. So they have no right to pick and choose.
But if you can help one child who has cancer, why wouldn't you do it?
Listen.
Because that Head Start mom will never do it.
Why pick one against the other?
Why would we want to do that?
Yeah.
I have 1,100 people at Nellis Air Force Base that are sitting home. They have a few problems of their own. This is to have someone of your intelligence suggest such a thing. Maybe means you're irresponsible.
Now, he walked that back a little, but Chris, was that a fair question?
Sure. Yeah, and it was certainly a question that should be asked. I mean, lawmakers and people in general need to realize that reporters are going to ask questions that people are going to ask. She's not saying one way or another with that question, this is what you need to do, why don't you do this? She's asking that question, and then he just blows it off, and Schumer piped in something there.
Yeah, he said, why put one against the other?
Right.
And I have a question for Chuck Schumer. Why do you do that with every issue? But I digress. Go ahead, Chris Woodward.
Right. I will mention this is like the third example of a CNN reporter asking a question that is a tough, good, necessary question, I will go so far as to say, that you and I have talked about in the past couple of weeks.
So you're giving Dana Bash a thumbs up?
For this particular question.
Okay. Anything else for the matter? I
No,
didn't mean to interrupt.
no.
All right. Okay. We go now to the president speaking today at a restaurant where, well, it was, I guess, at a food court, if you will. And he is talking about how they're giving a 10% discount to the likes of government workers because they know government workers are furloughed and they want to help them out, and that's working together. And the president then takes aim at the Republicans, specifically John Boehner, about negotiating. Roll it.
And when it comes to negotiations, I've said I am happy to have negotiations with the Republicans and Speaker Boehner on a whole range of issues. But we can't do it with a gun held to the head of the American people. So reopen the government, make sure we're paying our bills, two basic functions that Congress has, and take your cues from folks like this, who are more interested in making sure that everybody is being treated fairly and properly and less interested in politics and scoring points.
All right. Well, there's the president. Now, the president also gave a gesture of firing a gun during a speech. Mm-hmm. And so Ed Henry of Fox News asked Jay Carney about that kind of body language and kind of statement, that kind of rhetoric, if you will, to Jay Carney. And here is the exchange. Roll it.
The last thing is the president, we're just 2.5 weeks after the Navy Yard shooting, and he used this analogy today about putting a gun to someone's head in negotiations, putting a gun to the American people's head by threatening a shutdown. When he was in Tucson in 2011, he said, we're so sharply polarized right now, we need to, quote, make sure we're talking with each other in a way that heals, not in a way that wounds. Is it a good idea to be saying Republicans are putting a gun to the head of the American people right now?
Look, the Republicans, again, I can cite numerous Republicans, including one congressman who referred to his fellow Republicans as lemmings wearing suicide vests. Numerous Republicans have used the hostage analogy. Numerous Republican commentators have used the gun to the head analogy. I hardly think this is unique. Again, if you're suggesting that hurt feelings are why we shut down the government. You yourself referred to Republicans shooting at themselves the other day in the briefing. So I think the people who watch this could probably get through that.
Yeah, I'm just saying the president.
Yeah, he kind of just got shuffled off there, Ed Henry. Your thoughts on that exchange? What speaks to you in that, Chris Woodward?
Well, number one, things get a little heated. Certainly, again, that is a question that is worth asking. People are going to ask it. Carney's response that it was not unique, I would say, is accurate. Certainly, there are some center-right or far-right individuals, however you want to classify them, that have used those metaphors and will continue to use those metaphors. But it brings back something that we talked about last week, I believe. Just because it's an easily understood metaphor and or a lot of people are using it, probably not something you would want to say. And certainly for someone in an office where your predecessors have been the victims of gun violence, you probably don't want to use a gun metaphor.
Yeah, I would agree, but there are so many things in that way that I'd like to advise members of Congress on. But no, I appreciate your observation, and it does tell us when you're asking questions, Chris Woodward, of the great American Family News, onenewsnow.com, you've occasionally gotten a dust up here and there.
Right.
Yeah, so here why don't we go a different direction, if you will, in the same direction, actually. But the topic is the shutdown. This is Carol Costello speaking with Representative Rokita, if I'm not mistaken. And he and she have this back and forth. It gets a little, I would say, awkward.
Yes.
And let's just play it for the folks. CNN, Carol is going to be interviewing a Republican representative from Indiana. Roll it.
And what we're fighting for at the end of the day, Carol, I don't know if you have children yet, or I'm sure you don't have grandchildren. You look much too young.
Thank you.
But we're fighting for them. Every child born today has $60,000 of debt assigned to them. That's their assignment of the public debt.
If you're fighting,
and it continues to go on. It's not even the $17 trillion now, Carol. It's the $100 trillion that's on the way if we don't reform the way we do business here in Washington. And that's really what this fight's about.
no, this fight's about Obamacare in your mind. It's not about reforming the system.
Well,
You're not
Obamacare's
talking
a part
about
of that.
reforming our tax
Carol,
system.
do you have any idea how much
cetera?
this law is going to cost? You know, it's an insidious law because it's a lie. It is not providing more affordable health care. People are losing their health care.
I think most Americans would say fight that fight separate from the federal budget. Don't partially shut down the government. Don't
Carol,
make things worse by fighting the same fight over and over. Right, we're going in circles, right. That's what you guys are doing.
No, you're part of the problem. The media is part of the problem as well.
Oh, come on. That's so easy. That's
Carol,
so easy.
Carol, you're beautiful, but you have to be honest as well.
Okay, I think we should leave it here. Thank you so much for joining me, Congressman Todd Rokita.
See you, Carol.
Chris, we're going around in circles here. Chris, tell me something, Mr. Woodward. You just heard Carol Costello attempting to do an interview,
yes.
And I got to tell you, when I hear this, he comes off as swarmy. He's a married guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, there would be a very cold reception from, and rightfully so, from my best half if I were speaking to Carol Costello or any woman like that.
Yeah, you might as well just stay where you are and not go home. Yes.
Yeah, bad place. What do you make of that? I mean, have you ever had somebody do that to you?
No. I have not.
I had to ask. I mean, come
yes,
on.
Full disclosure, no. I will say, though, there are ways that she could have conducted herself as a quote-unquote journalist better during that interview. She could have said, so you're saying this is not about Obamacare, versus arguing with him, because that's what entered into this whole situation. Certainly, though, when it started off, it began on an awkward note by him commenting on her age and looks, and
is that ever appropriate? Is that ever appropriate during an interview when you're talking about business, environment, politics, whatever it may be, even religion, to start going in the direction of, hey, you're pretty hot. Just want you to know that.
No, I can honestly say, well, I don't think so, but I can tell you with 110% honesty, I talk with oil and biofuels proponents on a daily basis, and I've never commented on their looks.
By the way, we edited the clip. It doesn't change the meaning of the clip. Newsbusters.org, by the way. Thank you for that. And I will post that. I thought you could replace a man's name in what he was calling Carol, and it really struck me as funny, and I'm sure that's offensive to somebody, but you know what? It's Friday, and hey, don't take yourself too seriously. Bottom line, and that's Crane Durham speaking, not Chris Woodward, business and environmental reporter for onenewsnow.com, American Family News. Now tell me something, Chris.
Okay.
When you hear Jay Carney asked about the numbers and you get this type of response, well, I'm going to ask you if he answered the question. Roll it.
Here's what we know. First, in the 2 days since the marketplace has opened, 7 million people have visited healthcare.gov, and that's unique visitors. That is more than the number of people who visit SouthwestAirlines.com in a month. That's a pretty popular site. So as a measure of interest, it is substantial. What we have said all along is that this is a 6-month process. We are 2 days into it. We have 180 days to go. Another way of looking at that is that we're 48 hours in with 4,320 hours to go. So we expect, as time goes on, that and people compare and shop, and they talk with their spouses or other family members about what's right for them and their finances and what kind of coverage they need and can afford, that more and more people will enroll. But we don't have 48 hours. We don't have that data. And
the original question was, Chris, how many people have signed up for Obamacare? Your thoughts?
Well, you can go and see 3 different sets of numbers by looking at 3 different websites, not including Southwest or whatever airline he threw out there.
1,000 points of light.
If you're the press secretary, the last thing you want to do when answering a question is to go and then hear you let people hear paper swirling. He's flipping through the numbers, and he kind of stammers or whatever else. Look, I'm not a White House press secretary. I don't want to be. Certainly, that's a pressure cooker. But he gave some numbers. In his mind, he gave an answer. But I will say we've reported yesterday that there was an investigation in New York because their exchange got something like 30 million hits, but they only had 2 million uninsured people. So there is an investigation looking into numbers in at least one state. One can only assume there will be investigations, even to double-check the numbers in other states.
Chris Woodward, what's your Twitter?
At AFNC Woodward.
Say it again.
At AFNC Woodward. Thank you, Wendell, Sonia, Logan, everybody else that's been hitting me up and finding the things I post interesting.
Well, they are interesting. You do some great work, and there's a big difference between a journalist and a talk show host. Elements of journalism, of course, in the talk show host realm, but you guys have a lot tougher job, and we appreciate you, man. Thank you for just doing it so well.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Coming up, the Colonel, Iran, Israel, survival, 8FR Talk.